Hi, welcome to Kitschy Cabin. Pull up a chair, pull up a little beanbag next to the fire. Take a look around you. Look, it's just dice and cards. It's cards and dice. This is my cabin. This is my absolutely disgusting desktop. Look at this desk. It's utterly filthy. And this is what I've decided to do with my Saturday. I like to collect things. I like to collect all manner of gadgets and doodads and gizmos and whatnots. Especially cards and dice. And today we got writing dice. And this is just a bunch of dice you roll that tells you what to write, or what to do in an RPG-like setting, or whatnot. It's just like dice for helping you come up with a story. This kind of thing is usually not my vibe. Like, usually when I write, I just kind of sit down and write, and I'm just like, hey, I'm gonna make up some characters, and I'm not gonna think of a story, and I'm just gonna barf some words on the paper. But lately, I've found it hard to find the motivation to write. And by lately, I mean my entire life. And I want to write more, but it's hard to do that. And you know what makes it easier? When you give yourself reasons to write. So here's some dice. We're gonna write today. So first, I want to look at the packaging. This is a fun little thingamabob. I like the sort of like little, I was gonna say tunnel. This is not what a tunnel is. A tunnel has two sides. The spherical container that is holding these dice. I like this kind of thing, where it's like, you pop it. I was worried at first when I got these, because I got these as a Christmas present, and I had to drive with them in my suitcase 7 hours back to my apartment after I was done visiting my family. I was very afraid they were gonna come, like, apart in that time, and they didn't. Top doesn't come off. Fits nice and snug, so that's nice. I do want to point out my favorite part of this is it says perfect for writers. Yep, that's a given. They're writing dice. Writing students also works. I would say they fit under this category, but that works too. Teachers, again, makes a ton of sense. Teenagers, role-playing games, and gifting. Gifting is a little vague. Teenagers is wild to me. Just any teenager. Who wants a car when they turn 16? I want writing dice. Let's open our can. It's like a can. That's not the word I was looking for earlier, but so it comes with a little guide. Put this aside for a minute. Look at this tiny, very tiny guide. Basic instructions. Roll all the dice or pick and choose. So we could roll all of them and then have enough to make an entire story out of them. Or I could say, oh, I just want to make a character and a point of view, or I just want a conflict and a place and theme if I want to make a plot, or something like that. Then brainstorm. What does your role inspire in you? What different directions can you think of for each role? And then write. Be fearless. Have fun. Don't be afraid. I think for the first one, we're just going to roll all the dice. So here we go. So let's go through them one category at a time. For the 4 character dice, we have witty, stubborn, shapeshifter, man. This, by the way, is my favorite dice. This is just one of the character dice, right? This is just the dimensions, but it has all 6 genders on it. That being man, woman, child, senior, non-binary, and non-human. So we got man, shapeshifter, stubborn, and witty, and that's our main character. So next, we have 1 time dice, and this is present day. Let's take a look at our place dice. Present day, rural. Our theme, loneliness, and then versus self is the conflict. Okay, this is a witty, stubborn shapeshifter. Witty, stubborn, shapeshifting man living in present day, rural somewhere, battling with loneliness and a conflict between himself and himself. I always think when I use stuff like this, like writing prompt type tools like this, that I'm going to get stuff that's very difficult to match together. But from the couple like test rolls I did, and from this one especially, everything fits very well together, right? Like witty, stubborn, shape-shifting guy, that fits well with the sort of versus self inner conflict, you know, especially the shape-shifting and the stubbornness. I feel like that's a, you know, I'm changing my shape, I'm changing myself. I'm having a hard time getting a grip on who I really am. And then again, loneliness fits very well with that whole theme. Everything in here seems to fit together really well, and maybe I've just gotten lucky with my rolls so far. All of these pieces, like all of the separate pieces that are on these dice, feel like they fit together very well, you know, no matter what order you put them in, if that makes sense. It doesn't make sense. I just said a bunch of words and threw them together, but you get like the general vibe. You get the general vibe. But because these are like actually writing dice, I'm going to do a quick, like, you know, writing exercise with them, and using this role that we just did, witty, stubborn, shapeshifter man in present day rural somewhere, dealing with loneliness and an inner conflict. Oh, and there's also this one. I totally forgot about one of the dice. This dice is supposed to be like the POV. So we've got minor character, omniscient outsider, protagonist, antagonist, alternative POV, and outsider. I don't like this role for this. That's the only... Like I was saying before that I like the way all of these dice fit together. This is the only one where, like, sort of every time I roll it, unless I get something like protagonist or alternating POV, because those are the POVs that I like to write from, this one always kind of feels like it clashes with something. I don't know, though, with this. Maybe minor character... Ooh... See, I was gonna say that I wanted to leave this one out because minor character felt odd, but now I'm getting like an idea for it, and I am gonna leave it in here. Using all of these dice, including the one that I forgot before, I'm gonna take my thing out, my thing being my notebook, and then I'm just gonna write something with it. And yeah, and I'm probably not gonna read you the whole story because I'm embarrassed, but we're just gonna see how good this is at like actually sparking ideas. Stop it there. So at first I was nervous about writing on camera because I didn't want y'all to read this exercise first draft and judge it, but then I realized that one, no one's going to watch this, and two, there's absolutely no way that you can read my serial killer ransom note looking handwriting. It's incomprehensible, almost even to me. I did manage to write, as you can see, a page. Basically, what I landed on was this concept of a shapeshifter living on a farm, sort of in the middle of nowhere. He's this total hermit. He's really lonely. He never sees anyone. No one has come to his farm in years. And he's struggling with this sense of self, both from not seeing anyone and from, you know, being a shapeshifter. Present day was easy to incorporate. I know a lot of people probably lean more toward like a fantasy or historical setting or a sci-fi setting. When I sit down, I'm just writing off the top of my head. My default is present day. He's a man. I mean, he's a shapeshifter, so he takes all sorts of forms, but I made his sort of most frequent form an old man farmer, you know, torn overalls, big bushy beard, your stereotypical like hermit, grumpy farmer guy. Didn't really get witty in there. Definitely stubborn. I didn't write too much about his personality, but he felt stubborn when I was writing about him. And originally, when I had this idea, I was like, oh, you know, I'm gonna write it from his POV. He's gonna talk about like waking up on the farm. We're gonna like really focus on, again, that inner conflict. But then I remembered we had this other die. And this is the perspective die. This is the one I totally forgot about before. I love first-person POV. That is kind of my default. Again, if I sit down, no idea, no thoughts, just like, I'm gonna sit down and write a story. Usually what I will come up with is like present day, first-person POV, someone in their 20s, like living in a small town, because that's what I am. I'm someone in their 20s living in a small town, and I think in first-person POV, so you know, I break off a little piece of myself and I put it in a character, and then I write a story around it, and that's usually what I do. And that's sort of what I was going to do here. Obviously, I am not an old man living on a farm. I mean, you don't know that because you can't see my face, but, you know, just trust me, I'm not an old man on a farm. But I was going to sort of draw on, like, feelings of loneliness that I have had in the past to do that first-person POV. But then I rolled this perspective dice, and I got minor character. And I was like, well, shit, this guy's a hermit living in the middle of nowhere on a farm. Part of my whole thing that I thought of for him is that he hasn't seen anyone in years. And I was just like, how am I going to incorporate a minor character telling this story? And I was just going to do this as like a character study originally, so there would be no second person. And at first I wanted to just discard this, but then I realized like, oh wait, we have this weird old hermit living on a farm. I just thought of this, you know, maybe this old guy, he's kind of a local legend of this weird hermit. Nobody knows what his deal is. And maybe we have this minor character who is this little boy, first on a dare, and then maybe just he's fascinated, so he keeps going back, sneaks out and watches this old guy through the fence, and like watches and realizes he's a shapeshifter. And that's why he keeps coming back, because he doesn't know who to tell, because no one would believe him. But yeah, I pictured this kid as being like in middle school, and I named him James. Again, not typical for me, but I wrote it from a third person instead of a first person, and I wrote it like, you know, James has gone out and is watching this guy through the fence, like, rake his lawn or something, and he's describing, like, this old man's off, I see him shapeshift, and he's always masquerading as this old farmer. I'm not going to read you the actual story, because it's dog shit, because it's a first draft, like, writing exercise that I spent, like, 5 minutes on. You know, maybe I'll clean this up later, but right now, that's all you're gonna get. That's my sort of brief summary of the concept. I really enjoyed using these. I don't usually love like writing generators and stuff like that. I wanted these because like they seemed fun, but I wasn't sure if I was actually going to use them, and I think maybe I will now, because even though this first draft is absolute doo-doo baby garbage, that's what first drafts are for, and I feel like it helped me come up with a pretty cool concept. One other thing I wanted to talk about was the quality of the dice themselves, like not the options, but the actual physical dice is pretty good. You have some like manufacturing defects. You have like a little crack on the versus self one. I'm not sure if it came like that or if that happened a few times after we rolled it, but I literally just opened these up yesterday, so if it did happen after I rolled them, I don't think it did, and if it did, that's a whole separate problem. Other than that, you have like a couple like sort of weird little specks and stuff. Again, it's a little hard to see, but little speck there, little scratched misprint here, just very minor manufacturing defects. And I'm not saying like, you know, these dice suck because all sides aren't, you know, perfect and markless and totally smooth. I'm not saying that. I think they're very fun writing tools, but if the quality of them is important to you, which in general it kind of is to me, because I tend to get stuff like this not just to use as a tool for writing or role-playing or whatever, but also because I like collecting things. I like collecting dice and cards and stuff. So if, like, the physical imperfections are a thing for you, just know there's quite a few of them, but not to the point where it makes them non-functional. So, overall, I really like these. I don't want to do, like, a numbered review, because that hurts my brain. I'm gonna rate these like a strawberry lemonade. Like, not my first choice of beverage, not my first choice of lemonade either, but, you know, I like strawberries, I like lemonade, and if they're done right, I like the way they're put together. And I like the way these are put together. So, I rate you a strawberry lemonade out of beverage. Thank you so very much for watching, and for hanging out with me, and for writing with me, if you did. I'll be back soon with more fun stuff, more collectibles, probably cards. Let me know if you would like more writing-oriented videos, because most of the stuff I have planned is just like rating card stuff and, you know, board game stuff. But if you want more writing-oriented stuff, let me know, because this was actually much more fun than I thought it would be, honestly. So I would love to do more of it if y'all would enjoy it. Thanks again for watching, have a wonderful day, and pick up some hot cocoa on your way out of the cabin. Get some of those mini marshmallows. Bye-bye. See you next time.